Behind every finance leader is a story that you don't always hear. The pressure, the growth, the successes and failures, and the decisions that shaped how they lead today. Right here on Finance Uncut is where those stories come to life. Each week, we bring you honest, human conversations with CFOs and finance leaders across banking, technology, and beyond. Just real leadership and real insight. I'm your host, Matt High, and this is Finance Uncut by BizClick. Let's get straight into the action. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Finance Uncut. I'm your host, Matt, and I am joined by Adam Barbera, co-founder and CEO of Dost, the autonomous finance platform that uses intelligent agents to automate invoice processing, accounts payable workflows, and other finance processes. Now, everyone in every industry is talking about digital co-workers, agents, and AI, but few have probably been all over this space as long as Adam. And that's why he's here with us today. He was pitching and building digital co-workers before, I guess we'll come on to Adam, before the market had a name for them as such. Having spent years in enterprise software, pitching ideas to CFOs and finance teams, Adam did what all good founders and entrepreneurs do. He essentially went and did it for himself, which is what we're here to talk about today. But Adam, I don't want to steal your thunder too much. I think we'll get straight into the conversation. Firstly, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Matt. I think it's a wonderful setup here, and I'm really excited to get this going.
Amazing. Well, look, let's jump into it. So back to the beginning, as it were. Obviously, as I alluded to in the intro there, you pitched autonomous finance tools, digital co-workers internally when you were in previous jobs and roles, I guess. And you were turned down, and so left to build it yourself. I guess as a starter, why don't we look at that kind of origin story and you take me back to that moment? Maybe you can tell us what you were proposing and I guess why you think they said no.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting, right? So you spend years in enterprise software sales, focusing on ERPs, and then all the systems around IP, RPA, which is robotic process automation, workflows automation, all the different tools, right? And then you see what's going on in the market, right? And then you combine that with some experience seeing what's happening actually in the own company, right? In my previous employer, what's going on, and then you see these large AP teams struggling, and then you kind of say, why? Right? We have all these tools, all these solutions out there. Why this is happening? Right. So then that kind of triggers something, and then says, well, why don't we try to find a solution for that? If the solutions in the market are not solving the problem, why don't we do it? And then first of all, there was this kind of a program internally, where you could actually propose solutions, and then we put it together. We kind of design it in a way where it could be done internally, right? And then you go, you kind of pitch it to the right people, and then everyone gets excited. But at the end of the journey, it's like, but we're not gonna do it, right?
Yeah,
they're like,
sure,
okay, fine.
That must be frustrating.
Yeah, it is quite frustrating, because you say, well, you've got this problem, which is, impacting directly in your finance, right? And you don't want to do anything about it, right? So, and then you think of, can we actually do it? And then you try to find who you can join, right? To actually do it, and then you really try to find the right people to put them in the right seats. So then I went to a couple of colleagues. I knew that so Nakash, who is our CTO, he's really good at AI, and he has a lot of knowledge on systems and AI and data overall and software development. Said, hey Nakash, do you think that we can build digital coworkers. I was like, what's a digital coworker? It's some kind of software that actually try to do the same human stuff, right? And said, yeah, I think we can, right? So if you combine certain technologies and blah, we could do it. And then there was Fernando, who is our chief evangelist and also Dost co-founder. Fernando was quite knowledgeable, in terms of IT governance, IT enterprise systems, etc. And he was coming from the enterprise consulting background. And he said, "Yeah, that could be a really good solution for customers." And also he had an IT consulting business before, right? But right at that point, he said, "You know what? I don't want to, be involved because I failed in one business already, and I just want to be relaxed." So, but then something got inside him, and then eventually he joined us, and here we are. The rest is history.
Fantastic. And I guess we'll come on to what you're doing now, and I guess how you're kind of solving some of those problems. But maybe we can just pick up on those problems. You obviously spent years, as we said, kind of selling into those finance teams, talking with CFOs, I guess, in all different industries and different areas. Two things, I suppose. You talked about teams struggling and the problems. I mean, maybe you can give us some context around those, because obviously our audience is CFOs, finance leaders. They'll probably be familiar with some of the things you talk about. But what were those problems that you were seeing that really needed that kind of digital co-worker and that AI first approach to solve or to mitigate?
Yeah, well, it's really a global problem, right? So it doesn't stick to a country or a specific industry. It depends on the country or the industry. Actually, the problem is going to be smaller or bigger, right? But then you can narrow it down to control and visibility. You can narrow it down to manual work, and chasing approvals, and obviously having high impact, which could eventually be like an AP error can actually lead to 77 million loss for a company, right? So that's something I shared on my LinkedIn not so long ago, and actually that impacted a public listed company. Obviously, the CFO got fired, right? So these things happen in real life, and but to be more specific, you see broken processes across the ERPs on. You receive an invoice, it got stuck in the inbox, and then that invoice was not paying on time, and then the supplier gets angry. So you damage that relationship, and then you have to find another supplier, right? So these kind of things are the day-to-day of millions of companies that you would be surprised on the level of high-end enterprises that actually doing things manual, right? Completely manual.
Absolutely.
Still going into and actually coming to your desk and say, "Hey, Matt, here's the invoice. Can you prove it?" And then you say, "Yeah, that's fine. Good to go." And then they go to another desk and say, "So Adam, here's the invoice. Can you pay it?" Right? Which is fine with one invoice, but if you have thousands and thousands of invoices, then it becomes a big problem, right? And then we wanted to make sure that we were tackling the right problems. So we really went through more than 100 companies that we interviewed to understand the pains, right? And where they're seeing most of these pains. And then it seems that it starts in different places, but at the end of it's the same process, right? It's just different key points within the procure to pay process that it breaks. But they were complaining about the same things essentially, right? And then you realize that there is a pattern, and then you understand where you start, right? And that's where we started. We started in a very simple, call it use case, which is invoice automation, and then we actually started to automate the whole end-to-end process from procure to pay.
Yep. Fantastic. I mean, it's so interesting that those problems are still so ingrained, I guess, in finance teams. As you say, you said you'd be surprised how many there are. I want to come on to how you tackled them, but why do you think that is? I mean, I'm always interested in the team side, the cultural, the organizational side. I mean, why do you think that those problems persisted or do persist for so long?
Well, because it is not about the technology.
Sure.
It is really about the people and the processes,
Okay. Yeah.
right? And it's always down to the same thing, right? So if you
Hmm.
have a properly defined process and you have the right people with the right responsibilities and tasks defined to do that job, um, and actually they they do it in the way it's
Mm.
supposed to be done,
Yeah.
then the process it just works, right?
Hmm.
And then that same people can then deal with exceptions, right? And then
Yeah.
if you have that clear, then you can put technology on top because
Mm.
then it's just gonna work, right? Um, but the problem is, and that's why a lot of times software implementations, not just AI,
Hmm.
just software implementations fail because um, companies they want to start with the technology and
Mm.
then try to squeeze it in and fix the people and the process, right?
Yeah.
Um, and and that doesn't work. And
Mm.
actually, we do these Learn Online events here in London where we just bring together like 10 to 15 CFOs in a room, and we have really meaningful conversations. And
Wow.
that was
Cool.
actually you know a good discussion point, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not about the technology. It's about the
Mm.
people and the processes and the change management most of the time. Um, and that's a reality.
Mm.
And we when you have them in this room and where they can express themselves and you're not trying to pitch and sell anything to them, then these kind of conversations arise and it's just beautiful.
In the fast-moving world of global finance, information is your most valuable currency and your best friend. Finance Chief gives you the ultimate digital briefing for finance leaders. From deep dive reports and interviews with successful leaders, crucial daily insights on the stories and information that matters, white papers and research, and, of course, podcasts. Why not move from just following the news to mastering the trends, reshaping the C-suite, and gain a competitive advantage for you and your business? Visit financechief.com to read our digital magazine, sign up to our newsletters and subscription content, and listen to more exclusive podcasts. Join us today and be part of our fast-growing community. We'll see you there. That's cool. I'd love to be in that room. I bet you hear some
you're invited,
real
man.
things, right?
Yeah.
So is there I mean, I want to kind of bring those two together because obviously it's about people and processes and making that change from a leadership perspective. But obviously you're a technology company, so you exist to also help alleviate and solve those problems. So we'll come on to DOS, but very briefly, just to pick up on the conversations in that room because you mentioned them, and I don't want you to give us a load of trade secrets, but I mean, what are the kind of key steps then? So if I'm a finance leader, I want to transform or evolve my processes, I want to work with DOS, for example, and use your platform. How do I do that in a timeline? Should leaders approach that kind of change management side first and work with the technology company? Do you do that together? What does that kind of look like?
Well, we do a lot of as is and as
Mm.
it should be, right? Because sometimes you just see companies that they come and say, "Well, we've been doing it this way like for
Yeah.
30 years," and it's like,
Mm.
but that's not the right way to do it,
Mm.
right? So that's why there are standard operating procedures and there's defined processes, etc. And then while you try to help these companies, you're also trying to help them to navigate and manage the change
Mm.
management, right?
Mm.
Because as human beings, we are all resistant to changes, right?
Yeah.
And unless it's super super easy and it actually you know empowers you and you don't feel
Mm.
afraid that
Mm.
this technology actually is gonna steal your job, right? Then you either embrace it or you don't, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So we do a lot of these things as well, and we try to work very closely with
Mm.
the user so that the user um, adopts the technology, because
Okay.
otherwise it can be the best technology in the world,
Mm.
it can be the best process in the world, but if the user is not adopting it, it will just not work and it will
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
fail.
So is that, I mean, look, is that why most of those kind of rollouts and technology programs fail still, because of that kind of human resistance, let's say, maybe the wrong word, and those kind of process parts? Is that still the kind of main pain point for those listening in the audience that want to kind of make this transition or move into more AI and adopt technology? Are those still the kind of main areas that are maybe barriers or blockers?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it didn't change
Yeah.
at all. It's still the same. It's still the same challenge. Yeah.
So let's talk about, because obviously using AI, using DOS, using technology, using those co-workers we talked about, obviously adds value and also brings change to the way a team works, to the way professionals approach their role. I mean, look, we should talk about the co-workers. We mentioned them in the intro. Why don't you tell us about what DOST does, and I suppose more broadly why these AI agents, these digital co-workers, are so important right now for finance teams and their wider organizations?
Right. So essentially, what we do is DOS is an AI native
Mm.
finance automation platform focused on procure to pay and order to cash. The difference on DOS versus other solutions and
Mm.
why they should use a solution like DOS or a similar one, right? Is because you've got the AI at its core,
Yeah.
right? And we we just basically created a solution, then we kind of overlap it with AI, and then there's an AI solution, right?
Hmm.
It is actually does this design in a way where we already build software for agents and for people, right? So then what happens is DOS is very flexible. It can scale, it can change, it can adapt, it can evolve much faster to um, new features, to organizations,
Hmm.
um, and then if we take the simple example of you know the invoice capture, right?
Hmm.
So if you have like a template based capture and then you apply AI, at, at some point it depends on what kind of document, whether it's change on the format, whether it's larger or shorter, more pages, less pages, right? It might break. Whilst if you apply AI um, without going to the templates,
Mm.
then which we call the visual language model, right?
Hmm.
Then you can get down into the line item detail, very very specifically. Um, you don't need the templates, and then you can adapt it and scale it much faster. And in the same way with other features that we have, like the supplier onboarding or the 3 and 4-way matching, right?
Mm.
So it gives you that flexibility and that scalability, so that you can um, you can maximize and you can tackle all use cases
Yeah, I see.
in your business.
Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot of noise around AI, Adam. I think we can all,
Data.
all agree that at least. You talk about obviously the distinction there of having AI as the starting point, as the architecture, rather than bolting on and bringing bits in after you start that initial process. I suppose for the layman or For people out there who perhaps aren't so familiar with AI and the technology side of it, for those leaders looking to make a change, why does that distinction matter? And maybe in simple terms, you can explain some of those real kind of value adds from using a technology that you, like the one you're talking about.
Well, I mean, there's a really important point
Mm,
on the legacy, right?
yeah.
So if you have um, so that's why now the recommendation is to build for agents, right? Instead of
Mm,
people, right? Because um, now AI, which is able to, to correlate and speak and talk and just engage with one another.
hmm.
Um, if you have like legacy solutions, then it just become more complicated, right?
Got
And
it.
how you access the information, how you get insights from that information, how you just leverage that information. So if you have a legacy solution, then um, it just basically not giving you the full potential of an AI native
Mm,
solution, right? Because the underlying infrastructure and the underlying um, source code,
mm,
the architecture, um, it's actually not built for AI. It's actually built for um, software and just people. It's
no.
just the core is completely different, right? And then we go back to the point of the scalability
Mm,
changes, adaptability, and the evolution of the software. So if you need to make any change, it's just so much easier and flexible
I
than if you
see.
have to make a change in a legacy system, right? Because
Mm,
actually, if you have, um, let's call it a non-native AI solution or a legacy system with
mm.
an overlay on top, right? Um, then we kind of you're kind of fixed on what that AI layer allows you to do, but you cannot
Got
just
it.
change anything on the underlying infrastructure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So essentially, it's almost a barrier might be the wrong word, but it certainly hinders modernization and I guess development of your technology stack and your technology processes. Is that
Exactly.
yeah?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that kind of legacy technology? Is that still common? You think? Do you think there's still a lot of organizations, finance teams, and so on are running on kind of legacy tech and are not quite there yet?
Yeah. Actually, in these learner nights that we do, one of the
Mm,
conversations was around whether you are actually looking for new AI native solutions or you're actually seeing what your traditional legacy vendor is doing, and then
mm,
you you're kind of waiting what they're gonna do, and then you will adapt it, right?
yeah,
And adopt it. So there's two different trends, right?
sure.
And it depends um, what kind of um, person you are and
Mm,
whether you are more like tech savvy or not. Then you will just go forward and say what's out there and how you can actually leverage that these new platforms, or
mm,
you will just stay behind and say, all right, so I will wait for my ERP vendor to see what they can provide, right? So
yep.
I'm just gonna uh, see it from the set lines from for now, and then we will see. So this is still happening, and it's actually why um, the big legacy companies are still out there and
Mm.
still playing.
Do you think, I guess everyone out there, listening and watching this podcast wants to move forward and wants to transform and wants to evolve. Do you think finance teams are using AI properly? That might be an odd word, but I mean, I guess a lot of people think, you use your chat GPT, you use a few kind of AI functions and you're AI, you're using AI and you're ready to go. I mean, what are those kind of, you talked about maybe those really tech savvy, what are those kind of truly modern finance teams and finance leaders really doing that makes a difference, do you think?
Well, the ones that are really uh, forward thinkers, right?
Mm,
They actually adopting AI in the sense of going out there and trying to find the best solution for the problems, right? Um, Whereas the others are actually just having a Claude or ChatGPT account, and then they just
Yeah.
use it for few things,
Yeah.
and mostly around productivity.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's actually how they use AI,
Mm,
right? So
mm,
just simple things like maybe they have automated some stuff, right? But
mm.
not really for the core functions of a company.
Yeah.
Rather more like um, this contract, review that, what could I flag here, right?
Mm,
Or summarize this email, or help me to write
mm,
this email better, or just give me a summary on what's going on every morning before I start my day, stuff like that. And that's something also we discuss in Learn Online, right? Is
yeah.
because most of the people are actually using it for personal productivity, not
Mm,
even business productivity, uh,
yeah.
and especially at the core function of a company such as finance.
Mm. That's it seems such a shame with the
It
wealth
is a
of
shame. Yeah.
technology out there, right? To be using probably some people still using it from their own personal accounts, which let's be honest is is not great when we're talking about financial data and stuff. But so you were saying obviously that I guess in summary, finance teams perhaps aren't using AI to the maximum of its capability, which seems a shame with the wealth of tools out there and the technologies we've talked about. I mean, what should leaders do? You know, that we have an audience of CFOs. What are those kind of practical steps for cutting through the noise and maybe going beyond, you know, using Claude to manage your emails or your calendar or something like that?
Right. So I mean, so there are a few steps, right? So actually, I was sharing on one of my LinkedIn posts
Mm,
where uh, where they should start, right? Um, First of all, it's about understanding the uh, where you are within the journey, right? Because
yeah.
if you see it like a pyramid, right?
Mm,
So you have a back office at the bottom, and that's the foundation, right? So you have invoice, accounts payable, um, then you have reconciliation and close, which is how you lean on the the first layer. Then
mm,
you go up, and then you have cash flow and visibility, and then you have reporting and dashboards, and then eventually you have FP&A and forecasting, right? So where they should start? Well, the recommendation is to start where you struggle the most, right? But actually,
yep.
don't try to start, from the top of the pyramid, right?
Mhm.
So don't start a house with the roof, right? Um,
It was obvious advice, but worth
yeah.
you know telling people again.
So our recommendation is really understanding the foundation, right? So fixing this first and really saying, all right, so where do we struggle in the back office, and
Mm,
fixing the back office, and then you will be able to build on top of that with
mm,
confidence, and then running a very smooth accounts payable process and account receivable process, and then the reconciliation and the close will be faster, which means that you will have better cash flow visibility, which actually depends on accurate accounts payable and account receivable data, right? So
mm,
you keep building up, and then of course you will have a pretty great reporting and a beautiful dashboard, and you could actually then connect your cloud, and then you can just do your insights, or you can just if you're using Dost, you can actually get your insights, the Dost Insights product, which is basically to get your information from your AP, from your AR, and from your ERP all in one single
yep.
place, right? And then last but not least, you can do your scenarios, you can do your reporting with accurate and clean data, right?
Mm,
And that's where I would start. So I would just look at the foundation, make sure that this is well defined and well established, and um, the data is clean, the processes uh, are there and are not broken, and
mm,
then you just keep building on top. And the first thing you need to do um, if you think on where do I start is just take this approach and see where you have gaps, and then start mapping this out and start from there, right? But always thinking on the foundation to the top.
Fantastic. And I've got some stats here that I know that you're seeing from taking these kind of actions. This is where probably I read these stats out, Adam, and you say, no, they're not right. It always happens, right? I'll look silly on the podcast for a moment, but 90% of time saved on manual processes, around 80% lower processing costs, 95% data extraction accuracy, and over 5 million transactions processed. They're the kind of things you're seeing from, I suppose, is that taking these steps that you talked about? I mean, they're huge percentages and numbers. It shows the benefits of the technology, right?
Yeah, I mean, as you take the right decisions and the right steps, you will potentially have, that foundation that allows you to keep growing the business without actually growing the headcount, right? Because that's what any business would like, right? So you don't, because you are selling more, you don't need to actually have more people in finance, right? So essentially, what we are seeing is the point is not about cutting jobs and cutting people. It's actually to raising the productivity of those teams and maximizing the efficiency and the outputs from that team. So then you will start to see this ROI coming in, the return on investment on time saved as cost savings. You will see how you achieve better EBITDA results, right? So because it will not impact your bottom line. And we have great examples with customers. There is a very large gym chain with a lot of gyms across the country, where they scaled from around 100 clubs to more than 160, 70 clubs. And actually they have been even acquired by a larger organization, which is private equity backed, right? And actually, one of the things they said is what we value from that company is how efficient is the finance team, and how efficient is that finance team is thanks to Dost and the processes that they have in place, right? So if you do things right, you really see the return on investment and the value and the productivity.
Fantastic. So doing things right. Maybe we should leave people with a takeaway of sorts. We can just tell them not to build the roof again if that's the key thing, Adam. I don't want to get you to repeat yourself, but maybe we just need to hammer that home to people. But I mean, look, we're going to have finance leaders from large enterprises, big companies around the world listening into this. I mean, as a final point, what's one key takeaway for you from this conversation? If leaders have to stop listening to this, put their earphones down, turn their computer off, what's the first action that finance leaders should be taking to really get this moving?
Well, maybe it's more like a combination of takeaways, right? But if we kind of put it all in one, it's really understanding where the manual processes are actually creating bottlenecks, even personal liabilities from a CFO standpoint, and where it's creating the friction in the process. So take it as a step by step, right? Because if you take it a step by step, then we're able to tackle problems one by one, and instead of trying to make like a huge project and just a huge transformation, because that's probably gonna fail, right? Then you will see this will lead to having resources that are actually being empowered, because they also see these milestones that we are achieving together, right? And then they will understand that, well, this is actually helping me. This is not actually making me lose my job or or just displacing me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's actually empowering me. And then what means is the whole mindset of the finance team and the organization will shift more like to a finance role, which is more focused on productivity, decision making, strategic, and really understanding that once you've got the foundation, then and you have this small steps process, then on top of that, you can build anything you want, and you can achieve great results going forward.
That's it. I would say it's as simple as that, but it doesn't sound that simple. Fortunately, there are people like...
Yeah, if you want it in a single phrase, in single sentences, actually
no.
take it step by step, right?
Well, I mean, look, let's be honest here. We're talking about pretty high level stuff. It's not going to be just stop listening to the podcast and just go and get it done. It's never going to be that easy. But Adam, thank you. I think that's a great kind of set of takeaways and hopefully some valuable steps. That's it. That's all we have time for. I guess really quickly, anything particular you've got planned for Dost? I guess the focus is on growing, keeping moving in what's a really quick market.
Yeah, I mean, we have big plans as we are going through our international expansion. And yeah, so we have two main things kind of where we're headed, right? So there is one key point, which is electronic invoicing, which is coming in as a mandate across Europe and actually globally. Which is something that we are adopting, and we are helping our customers to adopt, right? Because that's becoming a global trend. And then we're pretty much into what is called the dynamic interface, right? Because now there's a lot of hype between the chat interface and the software interface.
Sure, yeah.
So the dynamic interface gives the user, that flexibility, to work with both and where it's needed, right? Because let's be honest, the chat interface is not the best interface in the world, right?
Sure.
So we are working on this, and also empowering the customers to be self-sufficient and autonomous, and actually and eventually hyper-personalized Dost for their use cases.
Great. Sounds exciting. Maybe there's a couple more episodes of that in the future on that one. But sadly, that's it from this episode of Finance Uncut. Adam, thank you. You've been a great guest. It's been great having you on. I hope you've enjoyed yourself as much as I have. Yeah,
very much. Thanks for having me, Matt.
Fantastic, no problem. We'll have you back again one day when there's a next installment or next round. But in the meantime, that's all we have time for. We will be back with you next week for another installment of Finance Uncut. So please remember to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Podcast, YouTube, financechief.com, and everywhere else for your finance needs. But from me and from Adam, thank you everyone for joining us, and take care. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode of Finance Uncut, where finance leadership comes alive. If you liked what you heard, you can hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening right now. And remember, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. If you want more insights between episodes, and why would you not, you can always head over to financechief.com or join the conversation on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. Thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, this is Finance Uncut by BizClick.